It's finally the holiday season, Christmas, the end of the year 2024, and I know for sure every YouTuber out there is uploading their mandatory worst movies of 2024 video. And I get it. 2024 has been a pretty bad year for the film industry. It's almost like an industry of its own at this point. The worse movies and video games are when they come out, the more grifters pop up out of nowhere to celebrate these millionaires' downfall. But fuck that. I refuse to watch bad movies just so I can make content on YouTube. I'm not gonna torture myself like that. I don't care if my uploads are slow and random. My time is more valuable than that. What I'm gonna do instead is talk about a film that I saw not too long ago. A film that completely shattered my expectations and brought me back to a time when films weren't just for entertainment, they were art. The funniest thing is, this movie wasn't a thriller or a drama or an action-adventure film with a mix of either of those. No, this movie was a horror film, possibly the weakest and cheapest of all genres out there, even below the category of comedy spoofs. And that movie is Nefarious from 2023. Oh, what's that? You expected a movie review from 2024? Not from me. I gave up on 2024 back in January, and there's nothing that's made me look back. Anyway, so what makes this horror film so special? For starters, it doesn't rely on cheap jump scares or gratuitous violence or a killer on the loose or any of that. Instead, Nefarious takes place in a prison room with two characters sitting in front of each other talking. Seriously, there's probably 3 or 4 different sets in the whole film, and 90% of the time it takes place inside a prison. Without trying to spoil too much of the plot, the story follows a state penitentiary psychiatrist, Dr. James Martin, in his efforts to clinically evaluate the mental and psychological state of an inmate sitting on death row, Edward Wayne Brady. Mr. Brady here is described as an expert manipulator, a kind of guy with a high level of intelligence and a way with words. Skillful enough to get inside the deepest and darkest parts of everyone's heads, deep enough to drive people to the brink of insanity or even suicide. The twist is, and this is revealed by Edward himself very early on with utmost sincerity, that he is possessed by a demon, Nefarious. Nefarious speaks through Edward. Not only that, he's gained total control of his willpower, basically living inside of him as a host. As you can imagine, with James being a psychiatrist, this relationship doesn't start on the right foot. Our main character, James, has a tough time believing Nefarious. Is the demon real? Is it the product of the imagination of an insane serial killer? What does he truly want from this? With all of these plot details in mind, it's hard to believe we're actually talking about a horror movie. It all should work more like a thriller. But like I said earlier, the real horror aspect of the whole thing relies on the dialogue between these two characters. A dialogue that's borderline a debate, philosophical and religious. It's the latter aspect of this film that I've seen rub on audiences the wrong side. The religious message behind Nefarious is entirely Christian, and this is used unapologetically and without pulling any punches. I mean, the film talks openly about abortion, modern liberal politics, such as political correctness and woke culture, the current state of the church, and even morality. It's a message that's very clear, very preachy, but also very accurate. I know I've seen plenty of people on the internet get triggered from all of this, and I love it. Not because it gets under most viewers' skins, but because it knows what kind of things it must say to upset the right kind of audience. Upsetting people here is the goal. That's how the movie terrifies. It holds a mirror to our modern world from the Christian side of religion, one of which most Westerners are familiar with, and starts disturbing people up with the concept of good and evil. Regardless of whether you agree or disagree with this message, the question it poses will remain clearly on your mind. And it's very basic. What if evil was real? What if evil wanted you to believe and accept it as normal? Would you believe in that kind of world? I think on a fundamental level, everyone sways away with those kinds of thoughts and questions by convincing themselves evil as an independent force is simply not real. And this film puts it all back into your head to question your own personal assumptions. It's been a while since I've seen any story be this bold about its core message, especially from Christians, who in this day and age, in my personal opinion, are seen as incredibly naive and accepting.
Haven't you read that in the beginning, God created them male and female, and genderqueer, femboy, trans man, trans woman, two-spirit?
I mean, the movie isn't far off from this view either. Our main character, Dr. Martin, checks every box for a modern-day liberal. Hypocritical, atheist, considers himself a man of reason above all, and is arrogant and comfortable in his own worldviews. He is meant to represent the large majority of people that will most likely watch the film, that is, the white Western liberal. And that's how it manages to pull off its horror elements, by turning their assumptions against them. It's pure genius. I'm not even Christian or Westerner myself. I don't have a dog in this fight. And still, I can't praise this work enough. It's thought-provoking. It knows its kind of audience. It has an excellent dialogue and reasoning. For those reasons alone, anyone can just sit down and simply take this film for what it is. An excellent piece of media that's incredibly thought-provoking, and enjoy it free from prejudice. Which, of course, is an impossible task for the average Hollywood movie reviewer. Browsing Reddit or Rotten Tomatoes is an absolute comedy show. It's just full of people relentlessly bashing on this movie without any context or valid criticism, which only makes me appreciate it even more as a work of art for succeeding at reaching and pulling the right kind of emotions from the audience it intended to. Apparently, from what I read online, all the marketing material hid away the heavy Christian message and made itself appear as any other terrible or mediocre horror film, which again is a genius move from the producers. The acting is another excellent aspect from this movie that I haven't mentioned yet. You can have the perfect script, but if you don't have the actors to carry it, it won't count for much. Sean Patrick Flanery kills the role as the possessed death row inmate Edward and the demon Nefarious. It's not only the way they speak. Whenever we see the character of Edward coming to the surface, we see somebody that's absolutely terrified of their circumstances. On the other hand, Nefarious, the demon itself, is arrogant, confident, and seems to always be one step ahead of everyone around him, even when he's the one in chains. And it's all carried by an excellent performance by Flanery. If we lived in a sane world, Flanery would be showering awards for his performance. I'm not kidding, it's that good. Jordan Belfi as Dr. James Martin does a pretty good job as well, even though, compared to Flanery, he's got an easier job. His character, James, doesn't go through the same tribulations as the possessed Edward, at least for most of the film. But he's got his moments. Moments that I think will surprise the audience. And Belfi does a pretty good job with this character. Anyway, I highly recommend checking this one out. It's gonna most likely upset the large majority of viewers, but if that's a risk you're willing to take, or if you're somebody that's emotionally stable, unlike all of these Redditors, you will definitely experience something that will stay with you long after the credits roll. And that's why Nefarious is the best movie of 2024 to me. And that's all I gotta say. Thanks for listening. Bye.
My name is Legion, for we are many. See, James, is not just about you or Edward, for that matter. It's about everyone. The entire human race. All of us against all of you.
Well, if that's the case, your side's not doing too well.
Do you really believe that, James?
Yeah. We've never been freer. Literacy is at an all-time high. We're working to eliminate racism, intolerance, gender inequality. People can love who they want, be who they want, do what they want. Diversity is no longer a dream. Hate speech is no longer tolerated. And politically, we're reclaiming the moral high ground.
James. you see, James, the average high school graduate, reads at a 6th grade level. You have basketball players making $30 million a year decrying racism, all while wearing sneakers made from slave labor. Now, here's something for you. Right now, your world currently has 40 million slaves. More than the Romans had at the height of their empire. You want to know the best part, though? Half of those, half, are sex slaves, James. As for hate speech, well, you want to hear some irony? We didn't even come up with that one. You did it all by yourself. Sometimes you amaze even us.
I fail to see the humor.
Bottom line is you're done. It's over, that's it. And we did it all right to your face, James. And now there's evil everywhere. And no one even cares.